Welcome, Patreon supporters, to a very special edition of Five.
Oh, ow. Oh, ow, ow. Okay, that hurt my eyes.
Of 5 questions that have nothing to do with reactions.
Alright. I'm not going to do that voice the entire time. I thought I would do a little special Halloween edition of 5 questions with you all, and I'll probably put this light somewhere different because it's going to blind me. I don't want to be blinded the whole time. Okay, maybe that. I don't want to mess with the camera either. How you guys doing? It's a beautiful night here, October. Frankie's in the yard behind me, getting ready for our annual Halloween party here soon. But anyways, let's get right into it. These are pretty straightforward questions, like what's your favorite this, what's your favorite that. So you can probably guess what they're gonna be. But here we go. Obvious place to start. What is your favorite horror movie? My favorite horror movie is the 2018 movie Hereditary. And if that could be a common answer for some, but I can also see some never even hearing about the movie, never having heard about the movie. I would say the late teens were a renaissance of horror movies. Like the first decade of the millennium up to 2015, really bad horror movies were coming out. It was a real drought. And movies like Hereditary in 2018, The Witch in 2016, Babadook around that time, It Follows in one of those years, started a renaissance where we're still kind of in. But Hereditary was one that took the cake for me back then because it's not just a horror movie. The second half really is, and it's very disturbing in a lot of ways. When I look back and rewatch it, I realize that the first half is just a family tragedy. Very, very sad. And I really like that juxtaposition. But they still place supernatural elements within the first half that have big payoffs in the second half. And it's so beautifully written and beautifully shot. And it's, I'm blanking on the director's name right now. Is it Ari Aster? Was that his first movie? Yeah. Ooh, okay. I'm going to have to double check myself on that one. I apologize. But some of the scenes towards the end really actually had me jumping out of my seat. Not to give too many spoilers away, but after the father gets burned, this guy's face comes out of the shadows, and it was like one of the creepiest things I'd ever seen in my entire life. And yeah, so I think it's a masterpiece. That's hands down my favorite horror movie of all time. And I'm kind of glad it's a semi-recent one. All right. Question number 2. And if this movie seems a little less polished than the others, I just did this on a whim. And this is another really obvious question. What is a horror movie that you love that is underrated? The Village. 2004, M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. Now, this is underrated for a pretty obvious reason. It's a horror movie, but it's not. There are definitely horror elements to it. There are definitely creepy elements to it. There's just bad guy, bad creatures. But it's also a love story. And it's also a story about loss and sacrifice. And Shyamalan intermingles those narratives in a very beautiful way. The reason why I consider this underrated and so many people look back on it is because so many people look back on it poorly. And why that is it wasn't a movie that was easily marketed accurately, if that makes any sense. Yeah, the trailer that comes out, of course, they're going to push the horror elements of the movie in the trailer. That's how it was marketed once again. And then so people would looked at the movie and said it was inaccurately marketed, and I agree with that. And lost was the beauty of the storytelling, the beauty of the acting in that movie. So The Village, go back and watch it, even if you've seen it way back when. Do yourselves a favor. One of my favorite scenes of all time in any movie ever is the porch scene with Joaquin Phoenix and the female lead, whose name escapes me. But it's so beautifully written, directed, and the story and the twist at the ends, more than one, are brilliant. Another honorable mention for this question of a horror movie that's really underrated, and this is not one I have a long spiel on. I just want to throw it out there. An American Werewolf in Paris. Go watch that one. All right, question number 3. What is the scariest book you've ever read? Now, I probably mentioned on this channel before that I'm a big Stephen King fan, so it is, of course, one of his books, and it is probably another obvious choice. Forgive me. It's It. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen the recent movies that came out on It. I thought the first one was great. When they were children, the second one, not so much. But regardless of all that, it is the one book that has made me turn the lights on when I'm reading it. Like, I had the lights off, and I was reading certain parts, and I was like, let's go turn this light back on. That's crazy. It's just ink on a page, and it made me do that. You know, obviously, the book goes so much more in depth than anything the movies can do. It's an 1,100-page book on average, based on the version that you are reading. And some of his descriptions of it, Pennywise, the shapeshifter, is so bone-chilling and descriptive and intense, and drawn out. It really chills you to your bones, as I kind of just said. But yeah, so that's the only book that's ever made me like, I don't really want to keep reading this in the dark atmosphere I've put myself in. It's too much. I need a little light. And that's really nuts. I remember thinking that was nuts at the time. Wow. All right, next question here. 4th question. What's your least favorite fall activity? And that's going to be apple picking. Now, we haven't done it as much here in Denver. I think I've only been apple picking with my wife once here. It's just not as popular here in Denver in the mountains versus New England, where, you know, fall's all the rage. And don't get me wrong, you guys know, if you watched one of the first editions of these questions, fall is my favorite time of the year. This is my favorite time of the year. In New England, though, apple picking is a big thing. You know, there's so many places to go and this and that. And I don't know, I guess my Boston accent will come out a little bit like, what am I going to do with all these apples? What am I going to do with all these apples? Melissa? It's like, I like a good slice of apple pie with a scoop of vanilla ice cream on the side every once in a while, maybe once a year. But no, I just went and picked enough apples to make 12 apple pies. So, and apples aren't even my favorite fruit by a mile, by a long mile. So, yeah, that's my least favorite fall activity. And finally here, another pretty common question. Sorry, I couldn't come up with more original questions here. Just kind of wanted to do this on a whim. But hey, they're fall, they're Halloween theme. What's your favorite costume that you've ever worn? So before I answer this straight up, I will say that my wife is a very talented costume maker. She has like this affinity for it, this savantness for it. She makes our costumes every year. I remember a lot. There was sometimes, I would actually say most years, she makes 2 sets of costumes for us. Like, that takes a different level of crazy. One year, we were both different versions of David Bowie. That sticks out. She was David Bowie from the movie The Labyrinth, and I was Ziggy Stardust, and we went to a concert that way. And another year, I was the Jack the Pumpkin King from Nightmare Before Christmas, and she was the female Jill. Is that Jack and Jill? Is that what her name is? I can't recall. Yeah, and there's plenty others like that. This year we're gonna be Salad Fingers and Spoon, one of the earliest viral YouTube videos. For my older audience, if you don't know what that is, like, don't worry about it. But one that sticks out is just my easy creation, because I just kind of look like the character. Hold on, I'm trying to get my is Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. A lot of people say I look like Shaggy from growing up and whatnot, and yeah, I think I do a little bit. At least I got the shaggy hair when it's longer, though it's not as long right now. And it's the easiest costume in the world. I've only done it once, but it's always a fallback in the back of my mind. Just green shirt, khakis, tan khakis, and I'll just get a tiny little Scooby doll, and I will tape it to my shoulder. So yeah, last year we were the mother and father from Coraline in like the other world with the button eyes, and she did that. Another couple years ago, I was Randy from South Park, and she was Towley from South Park. So that's kind of a really funny duo and dynamic. I'm sure if I think about it more, I can think of more that she's done, because she's done so much. Oh, probably her greatest accomplishment, because it took the most time, because it was paper mache, was Adam and Barbara from Beetlejuice. But no, you're thinking like, what? That they just look like normal people. No. After they transform with Adam with the big beak, she actually took a football helmet and paper mache'd all the way over it, big beak. And then Barbara was even more difficult, because she has my eyes. She has like her mouth open like this, and eyes in the mouth, and she had to use coat hangers and all this bullshit. And it's like I marvel at her crafting ingenuity every year. So yeah, looking forward to our costumes this year. And yes, so that
concludes 5 questions that have nothing to do with reactions. Have a good, scary Halloween.